What was it he died of so young? Consumption, was it? Gabriel asks. Greta replied, I think he died for me. Recognize this quote's movie? Stay tuned to find out or check out the title of this episode of Talking Pictures Trivia.
Welcome to Talking Pictures Trivia, the podcast in which a group of geographically challenged friends explore movies through trivia as an excuse to keep their friendships alive. I'm one of these friends, today's host, Nick, and with me is...
Tom and KJ.
Additionally, joining us as a guest this week is...
I'm Chris.
Thanks for joining us. Chris has joined us for many of our episodes, including The Clone Wars, The Mandalorian, and The Batman. Later this season, Chris will be quizzing us on The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. He's only missed a few movies with "the" in the title on Talking Pictures Trivia. Chris conveniently likes movies. For those joining us for the first time, we start off each episode with a movie quiz, as these pivotal questions will determine who earns today's trivia crown. In round 1, each question is worth 1 point, and in round 2, each question is worth 2 points. Well, usually, Tom's episodes, we'll see how it goes. Then, once the fierce competition is over, we followed up with our famous movie rant where anything goes. Tom, tell us about today's movie.
Walking up to the theaters in 1987, we would have had to choose between Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, Teen Wolf 2, Wall Street, Good Morning Vietnam, and today's movie, The Dead. So, The Dead is based on James Joyce's short story. It was John Huston's final film. He directed it from a wheelchair, sometimes with his eyes closed. And he died a few months after the completion of photography and before the film was released in theaters. So this truly was his swan song of one of the great careers. And it follows a gathering in Dublin in 1904. And it's a winter gathering put on by two aunts and their niece. And the star of this gathering is Gabriel and his wife Greta, and Gabriel is going to give a speech. And we mostly follow the details of this social gathering, this kind of example after example of Irish hospitality. And the movie moves to revelation. It moves into an epiphany that Gabriel has when he discovers a truth about his wife that puts the affairs of the party into a new context. You all look confused.
Really?
What movie did you watch? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, the one with the snowflakes.
No one seems to agree that is a plot summary of this movie. So we're gonna figure out what movie everybody watched. Chris, if you had one word to describe The Dead, what would it be?
I'm going to go with monologue. What about you, Nick? What's your one word?
I'm using the hyphen cheat today. West Britain. KJ?
Snowflakes.
And my word would be epiphany.
It's time for question 1.
All right, here we are in round 1. Gentlemen, are you ready?
No, I'm not ready. I have no idea what you could ask.
This is gonna be.
All right, let's do an easy one to start. Question number 1. During what holiday is the movie taking place?
Locked in.
Locked in.
Locked in.
All right, Nick, what do you have?
It's cold out. It's snowing. I'm going to go with Christmas.
Okay, and that's the holiday that's the same day as the movie. So, KJ, what do you have?
New Year's Eve.
Chris, what do you have?
I was also going to go with New Year's Eve.
I think they're right. I think they're right. There was no Christmas tree.
No points. No points.
Oh!
It was January 6th. It was the Feast of the Epiphany.
So much for the easy ones.
And the questions are getting
Start
harder.
simple.
You know, they did say that in the movie, but they also were talking about that it was a new year. But
Well, it wasn't.
that makes sense because it still was a new year.
It was
on
New
January 6th.
Year's Eve is not the New Year yet.
It's also January 6th.
I remember them saying that it was after Christmas, so New Year was more of a guess for me. But yeah, it makes sense that it was the Feast of the Epiphany. That goose.
Everyone knows you have a goose on the Feast of Epiphany.
You have an epiphany goose. you never had an epiphany goose, Nick?
I've had an epiphany drink.
Don't forget the pudding.
Yes, exactly.
Don't forget the pudding. All right. So I brought this question forward to talk about the nature of the story, actually kind of what the genre is, why it's being held on the Feast of the Epiphany, why that's significant. Especially interested to hear from KJ, who somehow thought this was going to be like Gosford Park, which I find mystifying. Yes, so that's why I'm bringing this question forward. This is a terrible start. Let's try this again. I can't
wait for KJ to answer this question.
I'm queued up here, Tom.
Let's go.
So, first of all, guys, we should be especially embarrassed because Tom telegraphed the answer as his word of the.
Yes, I know.
But for your audience, he spelled it in the Google Doc with an H after both P's, so I read it as Epiphany. And until I've noted. Well, all right.
I stutter type. Yes.
Epiphany. And I don't remember what you wanted to bring up, but the reason I thought it was similar to Gosford Park is because it seemed like it took place during the same time period, and there were people having dinner in not necessarily very fancy clothes, but people were dancing. They were meeting at what I was picturing more of a mansion, although this was a very nice house. So I was comparing the setting to Gosford Park.
Yeah, I mean, Gosford Park's the 1930s. I think this is 1904.
Yeah,
that's upper class. Now I think it's also, the setting is okay. So it's in the past, right? They're both costume dramas. So
I had an epiphany that I was in the past here, Tom. That was the connection.
But Gosford Park is also, very satirical. It is really making fun of these people, and I don't think this movie is doing this at all. With a little exceptions, it's teasing, but I don't think it's mocking at all.
Yeah, but Tom, look, Star Wars and Star Trek are very different. But if somebody said, hey, I like Star Trek and I'm looking for another sci-fi film that's similar, Star Wars might be on the list.
I'm not seeing it, buddy. I'm sorry. It's just...
Audience, let us know on Twitter if you think The Dead is more similar to Gosford Park, or do you want to throw something else out there, Tom?
Or Star Wars.
Star Wars, Star Trek, The Treasure of the Sierra Madre, King Kong. Like, we can go on and on here.
Maybe closer to Howard's End, but that's not the best. Maybe not the best comparison.
And also tweet out if you've seen Howard's End, because I'd be curious about that
too. All right. So, bringing in like the holiday and the actual structure of the thing, we move from this. I think it's too harsh to call it a comedy of matters, but it's certainly it's certainly a kind of sentimental comedy into Epiphany. And I was wondering what people thought of that structure, the way that the movie lays out its revelation.
Tom, I got to flip this on you. What is the Epiphany?
Yeah, we all missed it. You'll have to.
Well,
really?
The Epiphany is that his wife, they married, and then he realized that they weren't really in love with each other. Is what I kind of thought was the Epiphany. I didn't catch the meaning until you actually said this happened on the Epiphany, but it makes a lot of sense now that you say it. Mm-hmm. Because like when she tells, when Angelica Houston's character tells her husband about the boy that she loved who died after the rainstorm, that was the epiphany in his mind that their entire relationship together has almost been kind of a farce. Not a farce, not that they don't like each other, not that they don't share time with each other and enjoy each other, but that they really truly aren't each other's soulmates. That was what I kind of got out of the ending. And I felt like the entire hour and 20 minutes leading up to that was just a way of kind of hammering that home, since these were your two main characters.
Mm-hmm.
I did like that end sequence. I will say that, but the hour before it to get to the 5 to 10 minutes at the end, I think this should have been a short story and a short movie. So yeah.
Well, it was like 80 minutes long. It wasn't that
It was an
long.
hour
Maybe-
and 20 minutes, but it felt like
Mhm.
2 hours and 20
And
minutes.
3 of those minutes were the
Oh.
opening credits.
3 was. I was waiting.
Seriously,
I
I was I sat, I laid down in bed and I was going, okay, I'm gonna watch like the first 15 minutes of this before I go to bed, and I'll finish it tomorrow. I literally got through the credits, and then I had to shut it off because the credits were so long.
Fair enough. Yeah.
I just want to say I didn't dislike this film either. So I don't want to, like, there's some movies we've seen that I'm just like, I don't get it. Like, I was there. I listened to everything. There were some interesting dialogues, and I enjoyed when that one person was doing, I don't know if it wasn't poetry, but what was he reciting something? Like, I did enjoy that. But all in all, I was really kind of afraid of what we were going to talk about this week, because I don't know a lot of facts and figures and deeper content.
Well, I don't think we need to know facts and figures. I think thinking about the party in relation to the revelation at the end, that there was this person who died for love of this man's wife.
So we're connecting it back to when he told her to go to, where was it? County Clare?
Galway? Maybe?
No,
Galway.
Longford?
yeah, it was out in Galway. Yeah,
Galway?
Galway.
Galway.
it was suggested. Yeah.
My people are from Galway.
Mhm.
Well, one portion of my
Yeah.
people's.
Yeah, and what the structure of the story, just as the structure of the movie, which Tony Huston's script adapts pretty closely in that sense, is that you get a world and you have people who have certain importance in that world, and Gabriel seems to be the most important, right? He's like, in the sense of, not that he is a political figure or he runs something or anything like that, but in the sense that he is the most respectable. And in this environment, he's at the top of the hierarchy, right?
You mean the West Britain?
Yeah. He's the one who everybody turns to cut the goose, to give the speech, to make sure Freddie Malins isn't going to be an embarrassment.
He's more civilized than the rest of them, although he appreciates the good old-fashioned Irish hospitality.
Yeah, and even more civilized. He is what Angelica Houston's character Greta says to him is like, "Oh, Gabriel, you're too responsible," right? That's what she says, and that's what puts him at the top of the hierarchy, and that's what gives him this kind of importance. And in the end, that goes away, because even with this woman who he's spent his life with, or most of his life with up to this point, he doesn't really know her and she doesn't really know him. And out of that kind of decentering of the self, right, he's no longer the center of these concerns. He's finally kind of actually sort of free of those responsibilities. He's then able to see the world for what it is, which is, we've never really known each other, not in the sense that we think, and that all of this is passing, that even to a certain extent this conundrum doesn't matter, right? Or it matters temporarily.
It's time for question 2.
All right, so I'm going to give you a nice easy one. So easy. What insult does Molly Ivors give to Gabriel?
Locked in?
Locked in.
Yeah, it's come up on the show, right? Yeah, Locked In.
Okay, KJ, you're starting us up. What do you have?
She calls him a West Britain.
All right, Nick, what do you have?
I also have West Britain, and I also had that as my word.
Chris, what do you have?
Yeah, Nick has surprisingly said this answer multiple times. West Britain.
Yeah, very good. Maybe I should have started with this one. Point for everyone.
Yay!
Yay.
One more point than I thought I'd get.
Yeah, West Britain. West Britain. All right, so let's talk about Gabriel and his role in the party, how he's portrayed in the party, the tensions he deals with, the respect he gets. What did you think of him? And what did you think of the actor who played him?
Honestly, I wanted to know more about the girl who called him the West Briton. Like, she's in the story, she's there, she makes a couple of witty one-liners and kind of like dresses him down as they're doing the dance, and then leaves, and we never see her again. Like, I really wanted to know more about like where did that girl go? Like, what is she doing? She might have a more interesting story, honestly.
Is that maybe your sequel, Chris? I don't want to go there yet. That's later in the episode. Sorry.
Yeah, she's going to a Republican Party, don't you know?
Yeah, she's very pro-Irish. Let's just put it that way.
To answer your real question, I thought this actor was very good. I really, he had some gravitas to him. He really like drew your attention. Like I knew right away that he was the person I was supposed to pay attention to, even though some of the other characters kind of stole the scene a little bit. I thought he was very good. I thought the fact that he was always going back to the paper, although that might not be an actor's choice, more that director telling him to do it, that kind of shows that even though he has this power over the room, he's still a little bit insecure about what he's going to say and how he's going to present it, and how people are going to take his message. Even Angelica Houston says, oh, he's been rehearsing it for hours or days beforehand. So he plays it with a little bit of a nuance to it that gives the character some dimension, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, it matters to him, right? You can see it matters to him, and it's a source of tension for him, the speech especially. If you read the story, he's fretting over whether or not to include Robert Burns quotes, because he's too worried that they might be too highbrow, or that people might not appreciate them. And so the speech ends up becoming part of his internal thought process as well. But I thought they brought that out really well.
Even though I've never read the story, I kind of got that he was trying to make sure he played to his audience. Because even though the audience was trying to play this scene of opulence, and we're all like royalty kind of, you could tell that they weren't by like the size of the goose that they brought out. Like I thought it was kind of telling, there's 12 or 14 people around the table and they're going to eat this little tiny, like what almost looks like a pigeon. So like they're all treating this as like some high society event, when really it's kind of just like a family dinner, and it's there, and he's trying to make sure that he's not making a mess in front of the family, it looks like.
So Tom, I agree, in the book he's the most respectable, but in the movie they added a character, the guy who sat in the corner of the table. I don't remember his name.
Mr. Grace.
Mr. Grace. Do we think Mr. Grace was more respectable than Gabriel the Knight?
Gabriel Conway. I don't know. Well, why do you say that?
Is Mr. Grace the guy that does the monologue?
The recitation.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
That was the word I couldn't remember. What is it? Say that again.
Recitation.
That's it.
Yeah, maybe because we didn't see it, but he wasn't nervous about anything he did. He was a little more confident than Gabriel was. Not that is necessarily more respectable, but if we're talking about respectable and gravitas, and I understand Gabriel had more responsibilities, but it was because they were more familiar with him, it seemed, whereas Mr. Grace was more of a guest, but also very respectable.
When I mean respectable, what I mean is he is the person to whom everyone looks to keep things in order, right? These women are putting on a dinner party. Things can go wrong. And even though, as you said, Chris, and I think that's a really good observation, it's not a high society gathering. This is a family party. There's a family and associates party. They're a respectable, what we might call upper middle class group, but they're not, we're not dealing with very wealthy people here. But Gabriel is the sort of favorite member of the family, right? He's the nephew that everybody loves, and therefore he's the one everybody turns to hold things together. I think that's what I mean by respectable.
He's also probably the most accomplished or established of that crew too. So he is the successful member of the family. Oh, my nephew, the one who's doing great.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, I don't know, I think one of those women has a daughter, so we have that, but otherwise he's their sister's child. And he's, kind of the next generation. He's the only male of the next generation. And I think all of that kind of factors in why he is the center of this movie, even when he's not on screen or when the camera's focused on something.
Is he not related to Freddie? That's not
I
his
don't
great
think
aunt or anything? No, that wasn't a...
I don't think so. Maybe I'm
Okay.
wrong about that. I thought
I,
that was
I just didn't want to, dismiss Freddie here. Freddie could have been.
I didn't get the family tree.
Yeah.
Yeah, Freddie is a mains. I don't know because it's the Morkan and the Conroys are the two families. So I don't know if Freddie's an associate or not. But also, Freddie's clearly not going to get married. Freddie's going nowhere fast. And
Do you mean Teddy?
Yeah. I say first things first. Yeah.
No, nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I also really like Donald McCann's performance in this. He's not a very accomplished film actor, but he's very much an accomplished stage actor in Ireland, as a lot of these people are. This is just littered with stage actors. I think the one movie star we get out of this is Angelica Houston, who was already established by this point.
Well, and the goat was in it.
Yeah. Colm, what's his last name? Colomini? Yeah. Colomini also became a successful film actor.
That makes sense, though, that they would be stage performers because of the nature of the set, if you will. Most of it's happening, in one room where they're dancing, another room where they're around a dinner table. I mean, most of it is not in multiple settings. I mean, it was like a big venture going to their hotel after. It's like, wait a minute, this is something different.
It has the intimacy of a stage play, and those actors seem to understand and know that intimacy. We should call out to the actor who played Freddie Malins, Donald Donnelly, who is an incredibly accomplished stage actor, one of the big actors of Brian Friel's plays, and he's also wonderful. I think he's my favorite performance in this, with possibly the exception of Angelica Houston.
I liked her as Morticia.
Thanks.
That's what I kept seeing as well.
Of course, I couldn't help it.
I forgot about that movie.
Movies.
Oh, okay.
When are we doing those movies? Sign me up for them.
Okay.
I actually, total tangent, I would argue that the sequel is better than the original.
Wow. Let's take a break and let's ruminate on that one. I don't know.
Hello,
and welcome back to
B-Side. Finally, it is B-Side. Today we're going to be talking about Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
We're going to be discussing the famous W.F. Murnau film from 1927, Sunrise.
The Icelandic movie from 2015, Rams. Juzo Itami's 1985 picture, Tampopo. And today I'm going to be talking about a good old film that we just covered, and this is 1984's Ghostbusters.
Talking Pictures Trivia B-Side, wherever you listen to Talking Pictures Trivia.
And we're back. We're at the critical point of our episode where we ask the guest a key question. Chris, if you could write your own sequel for The Dead, what would it be?
I don't think I can take credit for this. I think this is more of a group idea, but it's got to be, we know what happens to that girl that kind of dresses down Gabriel and goes to the Republican Party. I want to know what happens to her. I want to see where she goes that night. I want to see what happens when she and Gabriel meet the next time. I want to know that chick's story. I think that would be a good sequel to this.
I think that's like a spy action thriller. I mean, you got all that going on there. There's going to be some. I think it's a different genre. Let's just put it that way.
Is she going to be a grenader? Dropping bombs?
Well, there might be a monologue at the rally.
Probably.
Perhaps she has an epiphany.
We'll call it The Living.
Oh, God.
Well, so the other thing we could do is The Dead Family Values, if we're thinking we're going to bring...
Adam's family, yeah.
Well, what's her name?
So Angelica Houston comes back as Morticia, and we talk about the Dead Family Values. I like it. It's good.
A double roll.
And then they go to summer camp in Ireland or West Britain or wherever this movie is set.
Galway. They finally make it to Galway, and the dead are there.
This movie just writes itself.
Wait a minute. If the dead are there, am I getting like a shotgun pump here or what?
No. Like he's like an Addams Family guy, the guy that loved her.
Oh,
He's like a family member
the
of,
guy who
yeah,
died at
the
the
dead,
rape.
right? That's what the title's referring to. That
Oh.
dude, the dead.
Well, I mean, it's the dead, right? It's
Is it plural, singular? What?
No, I think KJ's got his spin-off here where the guy
Mhm.
does he come back? Does he come back? The guy who died?
Yeah, and like
She went
now there's
away?
this love triangle
Oh,
situation going on.
I think we're something's percolating here.
Tisha's trying to coordinate these. You know, it's like a bit of Fiddler on the Roof. It's all
Sounds very James
it's
Joyce.
Fiddler on the Roof.
It's a musical. All the monologues are in
Okay, I
song.
gotta draw a line somewhere.
It's time for question 3.
Who is the poet/translator whose work Mr. Grace recites?
I think the silence is telling.
Locked in.
Do you know?
I have an answer that's locked
Yeah.
in.
Locked in.
I guess I'll lock in. Locked in.
All right. KJ, what do you have?
There's some rules to pub trivia, right? If you're asked for an American author and you don't know, if you're asked for an Irish author and you don't know, you go Oscar Wilde.
Your answer is Oscar Wilde? Okay.
Yes, it is.
Okay, good. Chris, what do you have?
I literally locked in just so I didn't have to go first to answer this question. So my complete wild guess is Keats.
Okay. And Nick, what do you have?
None other than Patty O'Donoghue.
Okay. No, none of those were correct. The answer was Lady Gregory. It was Lady Gregory.
That was my second guess.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
There actually was that female that they were talking about that her voice was off. I was going to say her name, but I couldn't remember it. So I was still wrong.
Yep. Yeah. So Lady Gregory. So I brought this question. So this scene, so there's for our audience who may not remember the scene or hasn't seen it, there's a character that the Hustons introduce, Mr. Grace, and he gives a recitation that is not actually in the story. It's one of the few places where there's a clear drift from the original source material.
Oh, I actually like that.
I liked it too. I liked it a lot.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I agree. I think it works really well. And I was wondering what people thought of those little details that made this a movie, that made this have a certain kind of dramatic flow to it. And what details were, and maybe a better way to ask is, what details did you find that were cinematic, that spoke to the medium of a movie?
I like the comedic like banter between some of the characters. I know it's kind of smaller items. I don't have any specific things, but even when we were talking about Freddie or Teddy, like those kind of parts of that dialogue, because I can imagine being at a table and having those kind of jokes going around. So I know that's not the deep answer here, but those were the elements I enjoyed, was when there was a little bit of comedy in the party.
I liked the Mr. Grace part. I didn't know that he wasn't in the book because I didn't read the short story. But based on some of the other conversations we've had earlier tonight, I feel like maybe he was put in as a way of showing you what Gabriel wanted to emulate. I think KJ brought up the fact that Mr. Grace was very, very elegant and kind of went up there very regally and did his little recitation and had no shivers about it, had no nerves about it whatsoever. And it was almost like a way of showing Gabriel, this is what you're supposed to do. And I think really soon after that, you see Gabriel look to his notes again as if he's trying to remember what he wants to say. So maybe this was a way of kind of like, I know you said in the book they kind of do a little bit more inner monologue of him trying to edit his own words. Maybe this is a way of doing that without inner monologuing 2 times, because they do it at the end, but they don't do it in the middle of the piece at all. So maybe that was Mr. Grace's purpose.
Yeah, I think you're right, Chris. I think in the book there were quite a few inner monologues, and the movie is a really good adaptation of the short story, especially having to handle a lot of those inner thoughts and those transitions that characters go through. However, how do we feel about the production value of this movie? I thought the lighting was pretty terrible. There's the scene when he sees his wife on the stairs, and in the book, I don't want to say that's the epiphany, but it's definitely in conversation with the epiphany. It's this moment where he sees her almost as an angel, as this glorious woman that's on the stairs, and in the movie, it looked like a PBS special. Like it just it was a chance for the director to really show us something, and it kind of fell very flat. And I felt like throughout the movie, it just again it felt like a PBS special or something, a low quality BBC thing maybe. I don't know.
I agree that it didn't look great. It had 1987 written all over it as I was watching it, but I did like the fact that it made me feel like I was in not a palace. I wasn't in a crazy house. I wasn't in a manor. I was in some regular run of the mill house with like a one candle chandelier kind of thing. Like it wasn't some gigantic mansion, like I said before. So even though the lighting wasn't great and there weren't a lot of camera moves, this was all definitely solid shot. There wasn't any sweeping moves. It kind of made me feel like I was in somebody's house, just kind of observing their family party. And it wasn't a very rich family.
So back in the mid 80s, my father was the guy with the, gosh, we can't even call him camcorder. You literally had your VHS in like a little satchel and this big camera. And it reminded me of him being at a party and filming the dinner party. So we have all these home videos from back in the day, horrible quality, okay? But it shows you live what the party was truly about. So I do see what KJ's saying there about the quality, but I also kind of I gave them a pass because I thought it was supposed to feel like I was just in this house.
Yeah, I think the house appears lived in. It appears distinct, right? The trinkets and the
set was quite good, Tom. The set was
I don't really have a problem with the lighting. I don't think. I mean, it's interesting. It was actually filmed in summertime in Southern California. It was
wow.
Yeah, it was as fake as it could get, right?
Well,
even
and
though
real quick to interrupt Tom, my word was snowflakes, because when I read the short story, I was convinced the snowflakes represented the dead, and we're reading a story that took place a while ago, and they were telling stories that took place a while ago, and so really we're all just snowflakes drifting along until we're dead.
And then the White Walkers come in.
And then the White Walkers come. And so another lost opportunity for the cinematography and for the director was the snow. The snow also I thought should have been. They do, but it could have been more prominent. I thought it should.
Well, now we know why it was California.
It ends. Well, it ends with shots of snowfall.
It does, but it's not a snowfall I remember. I thought I was gonna walk. When I read the book, that's what stuck into my head. So I thought the movie was gonna capitalize on that and. Really show a good snow.
Yeah. See, I wonder what my bias would have been if I read the story. I did not.
Well, a movie ends with a collection of landscapes, right? And graveyards as the snow is falling down. And so there is this idea of all of these things are kind of connected together, and also everything's passing, right? Like you leave the social and move into nature. And nature is, in this instance, cold. It is snow covered, or snow is covering it. It's in the process of covering it. I suppose maybe it isn't this kind of rich Hollywood snow, which, fair enough. But I still think that theme that you're talking about, that the snow covers the dead and all of this passes, all of this will be buried, I think it was pretty evident in those final shots. I do like this production value. I actually do like her on the stairs too, which is a moment that gets me every time. Also bring up Mr. Grace, not to go all the way back there, but that's the moment where Gabriel notices his wife reminiscing, right? That she's hurt by something. And remember, this is the poem that, like, you have taken the east from me, you have taken the west from me, you have taken my heart from me. And you have taken God from me, right? There's this sort of, it's a poem about a love that costs somebody everything. And that's who that man was for her, right? And so there's an interesting way in which I think that addition adds some dramatic tension because it introduces the germ of that idea that there's something going on with her. We're tied at 1. So let's hope we can break this tie here.
It's time for question 4.
What is general all over Ireland?
Repeat.
What is general all over Ireland?
Locked in, but I have 2 answers.
Locked in.
What is general all over Ireland?
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming this is a direct quote.
Yeah, I mean, I'm using the word general, right?
Yes.
Quote.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Locked in.
All right.
So Tom, before you start calling on people, can I ask, is it what is general all over Ireland right now, or what is general all over Ireland in general? And if you can't answer, that's okay.
Don't answer.
He says something is general all over Ireland.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
Do we still want to lock in?
I locked
Oh
in.
yeah,
I
yeah.
locked in.
I'm locked
All
in.
right, KJ. Sorry, Nick. What do you have?
It's Irish hospitality.
All right, Chris. What do you have?
Snow.
Those are my 2, but snow was the one that really sticks in my head because I'm still going with Tom's picking the words from the beginning that we all used as our first words, but got us with the third one. So, snow.
And that's it. Yeah, snow is general all over Ireland. Very good.
Not Irish hospitality. I'm pretty sure they said something about that.
They didn't say it was general all over Ireland. All right. So I brought this question here because I want to talk about the ending. I think this is like one of the great 10 minutes or however long that ending is in movies. I think it's one of the great endings of a movie. It really kills me, this ending, both in the story and in watching it. I think the film does justice to that ending, in part because of that great performance from Angelica Houston and him as well, Donald as well. And I was wondering what people thought of that ending, of how this wraps up.
I mentioned this a little earlier. I enjoy the ending. I just don't necessarily know if I need the 1 hour and 10 minutes build up to get to that ending.
I think they're inseparable, and I could make that argument, but
Oh, I know you could.
yeah, I want to hear what other people have to say.
Now that I've seen the ending of the film, I don't know that I'm going to go back and watch this immediately. I don't think I'm ready for that.
Mhm.
But I do think that the next time I watch it, which I do think in the future maybe I will, if I do end up watching it again, I will definitely be watching it through a different lens of like what to look for, like her heartbreak as the recitation is happening. I didn't catch that. You mentioned it. It makes perfect sense, but I didn't catch it because I didn't know where we were going. Now that I know where we're going, I think it would give my second watch more. I would have something to look for. I would be focused on that aspect of it and maybe pick out more details that I didn't see before. To how the ending made me feel, I agree. It was kind of heartbreaking for this individual. I don't think that I necessarily fell in love with any of the characters. I jumped into their lives for an hour. I watched them do their thing, and then I jumped right out. I don't feel like I loved any of them. I didn't hate any of them. I thought Freddie was entertaining. So it didn't really grab me like I think that maybe it should have. Like I like this guy was a great guy, but at the same time I feel sorry for him, but I would feel sorry for him the same way I would feel sorry for a random person I saw walking on the street that was having a hard day. So like it didn't like suck me into like, oh my God, I feel so terrible for this dude. But at the same time, I now get where the story was going the entire time, and it will influence my second watch.
That makes sense, though. There's more
Mhm.
depth there than someone like me who watched it for the first time, had no idea what I was really looking for, and got what I thought was a drastically different tone on the ending than the rest of the film, and a tone I enjoyed. But maybe I'd be able to piece it together more if I knew what I was looking for. However, I don't know if I'm willing to go down that journey again.
Yeah, I think they're inseparable. First of all, you need the beginning or the most of the movie to set up the epiphany, right? An epiphany has to come not all at once, but it has to come at the end of an experience to reveal the experience as something different than what you thought it was, right? And we have we have Gabriel is the angel who who the archangel who announces the birth of Jesus and John, right, in the Gospel of Luke. So we have his namesake, that's why he's Gabriel, right? He's the announcer of this. And in this case, it's not a kind of salvation revelation. It's a revelation that I don't want to say diminishes, because the Epiphany sort of allows you to expand, to understand more, to see the world for what it is. But it is a form of announcing or revealing truth in the way the archangel announces and reveals truth in Luke, in the Gospel of Luke. However, attaching it to the beginning of it, I think a worse director and a worse writer than Joyce and Huston would have looked back upon the Irish hospitality and that party as a bunch of kind of silly people, right? Almost the way Gosford Park treats the characters in that movie, that those are people to look down upon, that the director looks down upon or mocks. I don't think there is an ounce of satire in this movie. I think there's comedy, and I think we're kind of laughing at some of the characters and their ways of being. I think there's a smudge of comedy of manners in it, but I don't think we're ever satirizing these people. And I think that the Irish hospitality matters so much, and the forms of the party, it really does matter to these people, and that concern is not mocked or dismissed in any way. And I think that on the edge of that glow of that party is the passing, right? Is the fact that these people are going to die and move on. And there's that great scene where Aunt Julia sings and the camera cuts. Do you remember what it cuts to? It cuts to a bunch of like trinkets and old photographs and like little shoes and her Bible and the crochet on the wall, right? It cuts to these memories. It cuts to the past. And as she's singing, on the borders of this party, on the borders of this life, as this woman who's going to die soon, we're led to believe, is all of these memories, is all of this past, is all of this passing that all of these people are going to enter into. They're eventually going to move into the borders. And so I think the movie really brilliantly balances the joy of the present with the understanding of passing and the understanding of the unavoidable truth of eventual insignificance.
I think if they remade this movie today, they might do one of those like flashback scenes. They might show you the epiphany at the end, like this is how it ends, and then jump back and show you the party as they go. Just because I feel like somebody our age or younger maybe was turned off by this movie. Like I said, I kind of enjoyed it at the end of the time, but I could, like KJ, I think you said your wife was bored during it, and like if you get the punchline at the beginning and then you can look for the breadcrumbs throughout a little bit more, maybe it would have been. I understand why it was done the way it was, but at the same time, I think that if a modern take of this was to be done, they might actually put the ending at the beginning and like 3 hours earlier and show you the party and the raucousness and all that other stuff. Maybe you get a better feel for what he's trying to show in those depictions.
I was going to say we're a much more impatient society these days.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, but we don't get that's you don't get the epiphany then, right? It's just like, here's the grand truth. Then
Tom, I didn't get the epiphany, and I watched it the way it was made.
Yeah, it could take place on New Year's Eve.
Bonus questions.
All right, let's go for it.
And the good news is usually we do 3-pointers, so I'm still in the game.
Nick's still in it.
It's time for a bonus question.
What song did Mr. Darcy sing to inspire Greta's reflection?
Locked in.
Oh no, locked in.
Nick, what is it?
I'm a lumberjack.
All right. Okay, Chris, what do you have?
I got nothing. I literally I locked in because I didn't want to be the first one to go like Nick had to. I have no, I don't even have a witty guess. I'm sorry.
KJ, what do you have?
Green sleeves? Tom, I have no idea.
The Last of Akram. Okay.
Time for another bonus question.
It's time for a bonus question.
Another song question. What is the name of the song that Aunt Julia sings?
Locked in.
Locked in.
No. Locked in.
Okay, Nick, what do you have?
The unicorn.
Okay, Chris, what do you have?
The Irish? I have no idea.
Okay, KJ, what do you have?
Green sleeves.
All right, so it was Arrayed for the Bridal. Okay, next bonus question.
It's time for a bonus question.
What sets Mr. Brown apart from the other members of the party?
Which one's Mr. Brown again?
He's the guy who gets drunk who isn't Freddie.
Got it. Locked in, actually.
Locked in.
Locked in.
All right, Chris, what do you have?
Oh boy. I'm gonna say he's not related to any of them, that he's actually just a friend.
Okay, KJ, what do you have?
He's a lot more racist than the other ones.
When is he racist?
At the dinner.
Yeah.
He's talking about I think when he calls Freddie Teddy.
Yeah, that whole sequence.
Freddie Teddy is talking about how there's a singer that's really good. And then he's making like a racist comment about because she's like he or she is not white.
Oh, right. Nick, what do you have?
Different religion.
All right, and Nick somehow won this episode.
Wow.
Yeah. He was of the other persuasion. That's right. He was a Protestant. All right. Wow. Well done, Nick from half court.
I have no idea how that happened.
Nick knew the fewest questions in this one,
but the ones that count.
Yep. It's the George Foreman system. You land not a lot of punches, but the ones you do, knock them out. Yeah, very good.
Well, congratulations, Nick.
Yes,
I'm still in shock. Thank you.
Nick is very good at movies he barely remembers watching. That's his. Yeah,
but it's only if everyone else also doesn't remember anything. All you need to know is a little bit more.
Yeah. You guys, I watched this movie 3 times this week. I already had the questions. I just liked it so much. I invited a friend over to make her watch it too. So Margaret watched it with me as well. She's seen it before, so she was already familiar. And actually had written on this story, so she knew the story well. So it was nice to have a little company.
I'm sure she got the epiphany.
Yeah. That's Joyce used to say he would get his. So if you know the Dubliners, which is the short story collection that this story ends, they're all epiphany stories. They're all stories that end with epiphanies. And Joyce used to say he would have his epiphanies on the toilet. That's when he was inspired. When he was on the toilet, he would have his little epiphanies.
And who doesn't?
Yeah. Sometimes they're big epiphanies.
A monologue.
And we've devolved to poop jokes.
Yep. We hung on longer than I thought.
Only took 107 episodes.
Yeah.
It's time for Movie Rant.
I guess my final thought is that it was a good movie. I enjoyed it. I'll probably watch it again, but not this week. I'm not going to invite anybody over to watch it. I don't think my wife would watch it. Much like I think KJ's wife kind of fell asleep at it, was bored. I think Beth would definitely get up and walk away. It's not for her, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I enjoyed the cameo by a Star Trek engineer in it, so that was good.
I pre-screened this one. We had a variety of texts going back and forth to decide if my wife would be interested in this film. Tom still thought she would be. I think I'm glad I went with my gut, though. I'll save it for another episode.
That's on the docket to watch Jurassic Park with me. I think that's where we're gonna hit the sweet spot.
Yeah, my wife as well. Yeah, I think that's a good one.
Oh God, you guys, this is like a maybe top 5 or top 10 movie for me.
I know you were saying this was very high up there for you.
Yeah, this is, it's interesting watching this movie at like 23, 22, 21, 20, whatever, however old I was when I first saw it. It was really affecting and really moving, but man, at middle age or approaching middle age.
I was going to say, how old are you, Tom?
About that. Maybe a little younger than middle age, but it really hurts. That kind of revelation at the end. And it was written by Joyce was 25 when he wrote this story. He was a young man and he kind of saw something in
25 going on 60.
Yeah. He always was. He was 25 going on 60, going on 16. There's also like a lot of sexual stuff in his work as well that sometimes almost seems like aggressively juvenile. But anyway, and I think that was my experience this time was having lived and been through a number of relationships that, may not have had the most peaceful outcomes, let's say, and realizing you're kind of the part you play in people's lives is not always equal to the part you play in their lives. Man, and the movie made so much more sense to me in watching it now, watching it at this time in my life at this age. And yeah, it's one of those movies like I'm just kind of in tears when watching it. It really, really, really stuns me. I think the utter sympathy and kindness with which Huston treats all these characters, even somebody like Freddie Malins, who's so sweet, right? He embarrasses people, but he doesn't embarrass the director, right? He's treated kindly by him. And you could see him with his mother, and they're the perfect couple, right? They're the perfectly balanced couple of all the couples at the party. The embarrassed mother and poor Freddie. Have brilliant performances, Freddie. Pauline Kael once said in describing this movie that not only does he know how to play drunk, he knows how to play somebody who is coming down from a drink, right? Coming down from a drunk. That's what you get there in that. And then Aunt Julia, the kindness that Gabriel gives her by calling her the Three Graces, or one of the Three Graces, and how, she leans over to her niece to hear what she said. And she's so she's in tears, and none of it's mocking. I think the camera treats her with such respect, and yet it won't ultimately matter, right? Ultimately, it's not like it won't matter. Sorry, those are the wrong words. It's going to pass and no one's going to remember. That's what it is. And that is hard. It's hard and beautiful. And this is one of these movies I really just have trouble getting over. And I know you guys didn't like it very much, but I'm really happy at least you talked to me about it.
No, I have to admit, listening to you just talk for the last 3 or 4 minutes, I definitely see, I get what you see in this movie. Not that it jumped out at me the first time I watched it, but if I do watch it again, I think I will watch it with a different perspective. And I think what you said was definitely all stuff that I will maybe see the second time. So that's good. I'm glad we had this. I'm glad I was on this episode for this conversation.
Yeah, I'm glad you're here too.
I could see how if this movie did call out to you, it could age with you as well. So I do see that. And it is nice to hear why you chose this film, even if we didn't all equally enjoy it. And I don't speak for everyone, but at least I didn't have that long experience. You've literally been able to digest this material for 2 decades?
Yeah, whereas high school.
Whereas I just saw it today and said, hey, it's kind of slow. So it is nice to hear the reasoning why you thought this was worth bringing to us and our audience.
Yeah.
So speaking of events that don't matter and will be forgotten, I'd like to congratulate Nick this week for winning the episode.
I almost forgot that I already won the episode already. So thanks, KJ, for that. One of my great accomplishments in life, soon forgotten.
Yeah, but Nick will remember. It'll be a great epiphany later tonight.
20 years from now, he'll be looking out the window at a snowy field and say, that's right, I won that episode.
Yeah.
all those
Or he'll be
points.
on the toilet and then he'll remember.
It's snowing all over New Jersey currently, and I won that episode.
The snow is general over New Jersey.
I'm still thinking about that Irish hospitality. You can find more of our content wherever you listen to podcasts, on our YouTube channel, Twitter @Talking Studios, and our website, talkingpicturestrivia.com. We are extremely grateful to all those who subscribe, like, follow, and leave a review. Did you have an epiphany while watching The Dead? Why or why not? Let us know on Twitter, talkingpicturestrivia@gmail.com, or give us a call at 201-467-8679. Thanks again, Chris, for joining us today.
As always, this is a blast. I can't wait to show back up for Addams Family and Addams Family Values. I can't wait to talk to you guys about that then.
You can find me on Twitter @ThomasSlayman15 and check out Talking Pictures Trivia B-Side.
You can find me on Twitter @KJ10001000.
I can also be found on Twitter @TheNicknamed. Join us next time when we continue our book adaptations and discuss Tom's recommendation from 1948, The Treasure of the Sierra Madre. Stay tuned for our first impressions of this film.
Ding, 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 ding.
Next week, we'll be discussing The Treasure of the Sierra Madre. Tom, how was your watch?
It was good. This is the first time I've seen this movie in maybe more than a decade. It's been a long time. I don't think I've seen this movie when I was in my 30s. And I first read the book. It's my first B. Traven experience, who is a fascinating character. And the book is wonderful. It's much better than I anticipated. And I hope to read some more of his books again. And then rewatching the movie was excellent as well. I forgot how good Walter Huston is in this. It's pretty great because I probably remember him more from impressions of people doing that character than him. And it's actually like a fairly subtle performance. Like he's doing a lot in a lot of these scenes. It's not just this like gimmicky thing at all.
Over the top prospector, yeah.
Yeah, it is. I mean,
his knee,
yeah.
tackling.
But I mean, there's like a lot of like little details he's putting in there. It's really, really fascinating. And if you compare it to like other Walter Huston performances, it's actually fairly different also. I mean, this is a guy who like famously paid Abraham Lincoln for D.W. Griffith. So I love this. I think that it's utterly fascinating. It's utterly absorbing. It's really, really, really exciting. I think this is one of my favorite movies, and I can't believe it's been so long since I revisited it. And I would recommend the book also. The book is excellent. Kevin, how was your first watch?
Yeah, like you, I read the book in preparation for this podcast, doing some real research here for Talking Pictures Trivia, and I enjoyed the book. I think maybe I don't have quite as active an imagination as the director of the movie, or maybe the actors. I don't know, because the actors brought far more nuance to the dialogue than I picked up in the book. I thought the book was good. I wouldn't quite rave about it the same way that Tom did, but perhaps I just didn't read it deeply enough. But the film, I agree, is fantastic and is full of nuance and theme, and I'm excited to talk about it. What did you think, Pat?
So I saw this movie either 2017 or 2018. I can't remember which summer. I saw one of those summers, either 2018. I think it was, I don't know, whatever, it doesn't matter. But so I saw it then, and then I've probably seen it like a dozen times since then. And I read the book in, I think, 2020, like summer of 2020. but this book or the movie is, and I do like the book actually. I actually like some of the sub stories that are within it more than I actually like the book itself per se. But the movie is one of my, I think it's at least one of my top 5 and probably one of my top 3 favorite films of all time. Like I love this movie, and I think it's probably the only movie I can think of that's actually like legitimately informed major life decisions. Like I've actually made, sort of major decisions based on the film in my lifetime, which maybe we'll get into in the podcast. But I think it's just such a good movie, and I really like it. KJ, what about you?
Yeah, I hadn't heard of this movie before Tom recommended it for the show, which sounds like it's a little embarrassing because, I mean, this movie was amazing. I couldn't look away. I actually didn't take notes because I just wanted to be into the movie instead of taking my notes like normal. So, Pat, I completely understand why you hold this movie so high. And Tom, like you were saying, I felt like I was watching Blazing Saddles. I was like, oh, this is where that comes from. Oh, this is where that comes from. Well, there's a lot of things that the Treasure Sierra Madre sets up that I think are used all over the place. And it was a wonderful watch. How was your watch, Nick?
This was a first watch for me. I thoroughly enjoyed this film just like everyone else, so I will save the rest for next week. The Treasure of the Sierra Madre is available on HBO Max at the time of this recording.
And you can find me on Thomas Lehman 15 on Twitter, and check out Talking Pictures. Is that not right? What is it? You can find me on Twitter at Thomas Lehman 15 and check out Talking Pictures Trivia B-Side.
You can find me on Twitter at KJ10001000.
I'm still laughing. Sorry. It's so stupid. I don't know why I find it funny when he gets it out of order.
I cannot figure out Twitter addiction. Like, people are addicted to Twitter. They tweet like hundreds of times a day. I can barely.
You can find me at Thomas Lehman. Okay. On Thomas Lehman.
Well, I ask permission first.
Oh no, it just cracks me up for some reason. Okay.
You can find me on Thomas Lehman too. Tweet.
Yeah. I have to finish this, okay? Okay. Tweet. Okay, game face.